right, we about to go live. All right. Hello everyone. Um, we welcome you today to our topic. Our topic today is tug of war, and so we're gonna get right into it. If you uh, are new to watching us, um, definitely we welcome you. If you used to seeing us, then you see we're in a kind of new format. But what we'll do now is do our introductions, and then we'll kind of do a brief overview of what we'll talk about today. So I'm Terrence Johnson, the life architect.
I'm Kendrick Baylor, the life doctor.
And I'm Jeffrey Hart, the life advocate.
Okay, so these are some of the things we're going to talk about today. So one, identifying when the struggle began, knowing when to let go, growing from your struggles, and then choosing future battles. So one of the things that you think about with kind of battles in one essence is it's kind of like that push and pull. Is that not knowing what's coming up, uh, but also it's just the time and the energy that you spend trying to really struggle back and forth with something. So I guess one of the questions to start off with is why what first puts people in a tug of war? I guess that'll be the first question.
Okay. Well, I would look at it like this. We often think we have to prove things to people or to ourselves. And speaking from my own personal experience, I think whenever I was in tug of war with something, it was because I chose to fight some type of struggle, or maybe I was forced into it. And it can be tug of war can be with self, or it could be against people. For today's discussion, I mean, I'll focus on with other people, and like I said, a lot of time it comes from when we have to, or when we think we have to prove something to someone, you know, whether it's sports related, whether it's work related, or it proving that we're worthy. And so I think that kind of sets the stage for a lot of people when they're in a struggle.
Okay. Jeff, you want to add to that, or
Um, I would just say, like Kendra was saying, you're trying to, I guess you're struggling with what you used to be versus what you want to be. I think that's one struggle that I think everybody deals with. If you look back, and then it's like you had this idea of what you want to be, but sometimes they just may not work out. Uh, but yeah, you kind of just have that internal struggle of within yourself of you know what you what vision you had in your mind versus what's reality today.
yeah. And I guess there's kind of one of the things that I thought about when you were talking, kind of like when you had glasses on and then you take the glasses off. So like when your glasses off, it's all blurry, but then when you put your glasses on, like you're like, oh man, I can see so much better. And I think that's kind of how a lot of people view their life now is like they're blurry.
Mm.
It's like this nothing like what I thought it was gonna be. Like I need some glasses to see the stuff that's in my head. Like in my head, things are gonna work out so much better. But I guess that distance between now and then where they want to be gets them in that tug of war, like you're saying, with the old version of themselves.
Mm.
Because like although they don't like that person, they don't know who the new version of themselves are. And so um that's why the old version keeps tugging back because it's almost like but you're not ready to be that person yet. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna pull you the where you used to be in.
yeah. Okay. That's a good component to add to it. I also look at adding to things like so forgiveness. People, we struggle with forgiving other people, and then we can struggle with thinking our work comes from other people. So I give you an example of what I look at when I think of tug of war. And I go back to proving things to somebody. A lot of people, especially athletes, want to prove that they're adequate or they're the best at their craft. And a lot of times, people end up, focusing on perfection, and what they miss out on is enjoying the process of living in the moment because they're so focused on perfection. And sometimes you have to let go of wanting to be perfect, and once you won't let go of wanting to be perfect, you actually can enjoy living in the moment. So it's not having the mentality of all eyes on me, and if I make a mistake, they won't deem me as being credible or worthy. And so I think sometimes we have to let go of the rope in regards to that aspect of just choosing to live in the present moment instead of living under the microscope.
So I had a visual of what you were talking about when you said, a lot of people think that they have something to prove.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to kind of put this up, and then maybe you can kind of add to it. But I think sometimes the visual of things kind of help people conceptualize it. And so we're gonna play this quick visual, and then we'll talk more about it.
Okay.
All right. So I guess from all right, go ahead. From the visual, kind of what did you get from that? Because I think it ties into what you just were talking about.
Well, if you look at it, everybody can see a struggle, but in that struggle, nothing is well, no one is giving ground. And so, based on whatever mind frame you're in, you don't want to give in. The people that you're struggling against don't want to give in, and so right now you're just exerting a lot of energy on things that maybe really don't hold as much weight as you think they are, as you think they do. And so, but what I would look at with people that's in tug of war, I would say that they're stagnant. And so I would say they're stagnant from the standpoint of that their feet aren't going anywhere. So they're not moving. They're just moving, they're using their arm strength to go back and forth with things. And when you go back and forth with things, that's exactly what it is. People throw stones at you, you throw stones back at them, but no one wins. And so if they were just, were able to let go of the rope, what happens is one side is gonna fall, um, and then one side is gonna let go. And so that's why I say the person that lets go sometime is the winner because you choose to let go of the struggle that keeps you bogged down or binded down, with what ultimately hurts you. I
Hmm.
think in order to move to a different place in our lives, we got to be able to let go and forgive, and then we free ourselves up to connect with purpose.
Okay. So so in the struggle, one, how do we get in the struggle? Like what prompts people to get into a struggle? Because a lot of times some people avoid struggle, and then
Mm.
some people seek out struggle or seek
Yeah.
out comfort. So what will prompt somebody to seek out a struggle that they might not need to, associate themselves with? And then, like you said, what are they trying to win
Okay.
if they're trying to get in a struggle?
For me, to go back to the word prove, um, I I think a lot of people sometimes think they have to prove things, and that is a distraction that gets them into tug of war. So anytime someone is distracted by trying to prove something, they take the bait, and the bait, gets them into tug of war. So proving things is a distraction and is also the bait. But once you get in it, in the tug of war, no one ever thinks about how to get out of it. Only thing people think about is winning the battle. And so that can prolong the process. And so I like to hear from our audience too, if they know of other, reasons that people get into, struggles or tug of war. Leave them in the comment section. But for a lot of times, what I've seen over the course of my career and from my own experience, people typically think they have to prove something.
So I guess my question would be, why do people always constantly feel like they have to prove themselves,
A
to
lot,
something?
a lot of time it goes back to them not feeling that they're worthy, or they are inadequate, or they don't measure up. And if you have a negative view of your stance or your position, then you're gonna always be in a battle. Because, like I said, if I don't think I deserve something, I gotta prove why I'm here. I gotta prove that I deserve to be here.
Mhm.
So it's ridding yourself of the imposter within when you're dealing a lot of time with tug of war.
Yeah, I was just about to add the imposter syndrome part of it because I think what it is, people fight for things when they feel like they don't have it within themselves, or they feel
Mhm.
like they're not worthy of it on their own merit, so they got to take it from somebody. And I
Yeah.
think that's the sometimes that's the struggle of, you got something that I want.
Mhm.
I don't feel like I'm worthy enough to get it on my own merit. So I got to get you in a conflict with me so you can let go of it so I can get it.
Mhm.
Versus I don't have the struggle when I already possess it. Eventually I'll get it because it's already within me and I don't have to battle with somebody else or to knock somebody else down for me to be elevated.
Yeah.
And for a lot of us, we've seen that in the workplace where we were around people that always like to battle with people. They were always in conflict with people because they
Mhm.
always constantly wanted to move up. And if they had to push somebody out the way, if they had to lie on somebody or whatever else they had to do, they were gonna do what they needed to do to get to a certain place. And so they, in that case, they definitely chose that battle because
Yeah.
they knew it was something that they wanted from it.
Yeah. And I used The Last Dance as an example of what we talk about for tug of war. It was something that Michael Jordan said in The Last Dance. He said he would never call himself the greatest. And I understand why he said it. He's been catching a lot of flack for some of his behavior and actions, and a lot of it is well deserved. But he said something that was important. He'll never call himself the greatest, because whoever is the greatest is going to be understood by them, and you let other people say what you are. But if you already know who you are, you don't have to speak on it. But a lot of people are fighting for who's the greatest, and they're stepping on each other, and they're trying to prove their point. It's not really about being the greatest, because somebody is always going to come around that's going to be better than you. So all you got to do is keep on living and keep on growing. At some point, somebody's going to surpass it. The only thing you can focus on is, your legacy, and did you do it the right way? But we get distracted and we focus on what other people, want to see and want to know. And then that's when we lose sight of what's really important.
And one thing about that, watching the episodes last night, um, it's funny how Mike used to make up stuff to motivate himself.
Mhm.
Um, and so I guess with that, was that like a struggle within him, like I said, to be great, that he had to kind
Mhm.
of manufacture situations, or had to find something to motivate him to go off and and be great. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I was sometimes you reach a level of success and nobody else could give you that motivation, or you can't really seek something outside of yourself to push you as hard as you push yourself. So I think, like you were saying, that's why he had to manufacture battles and struggles, because sometimes you can get complacent, and
Mm-hmm.
then because you don't have something that's driving you. So I think for him, he was like, if I want to continue to better myself and better my skills, I can't just I can't just think that I'm I'm at the perfect level. I gotta have something for me to feel like I still got things to achieve or hurdles that I need to overcome. And so, like you were saying, for him, he kind of manufactures stuff to kind of keep him. And part of it too is from getting bored too. I think sometimes you don't have that challenge, you get bored, and you're like, okay, I can do that. He could just get on the court. He could do 30, 30, however many points he wanted to score, just whatever. And so sometimes I think for him and his personality style, he was gonna be his own worst critic anyway. So he would have to manufacture stuff internally as a struggle in order for him to better himself to
Yeah.
grow.
And I think it kind of go back to when he was cut from his high school team too. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like that inner struggle to prove that I'm I'm the best. And
Yeah.
it's a lot of people like that. They have somebody tell them, when they're young that you'll never be anything, you'll never amount to anything, and they spend the rest of their life, trying to prove that person wrong. That hey, I'm more than what you think I am. So yeah, I think that's a lot of people may struggle with that of trying to going back to like I said, trying to prove to that person that you may think that I'm not worth anything, but I'm gonna show you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even go further back for me on Jordan. It go back to that time his dad told him that his brother was better than him, or his brother always did stuff better than him. So he kind of got that mind set. Then, his dad learned how to motivate him. But one thing I think Jordan had to learn how to do, um, he was always going to be his biggest enemy. But I think the key for him is he had to learn to let other people help him, because he already had all the intangibles of the God given talent, but he really didn't start winning until he bought into the system of allowing other people to help him. But I think that's a part of struggle too. We have to prove that we can do it on our own, and some people can, but what toll is it going to take on you for doing it by yourself?
Mm-hmm.
you know Sometimes we got to allow other people to help us and build that system around us, where it takes the load and pressure off of us, and then we don't struggle as much. But again, a lot of people don't like to look vulnerable, and they don't like to ask for help, and then when they get help, sometimes they turn it down.
Yeah. All right. So I wrote two things down from what you said. Um, Pretty much just like Jeff was saying, and you were saying too, Kendrick. A lot of what Michael Jordan, his motivation was his narrative that he told himself.
Mhm.
So what he was told earlier, that became his narrative that he told himself. Like, everybody think that I'm not good enough,
Mhm.
so I'm gonna prove them that I am.
Yeah.
And no matter who they are, where they come, coach, player, whatever, I'm gonna prove that I'm the greatest. And so with that, and like you were saying, it gets you to a certain level, but it also, that I think from the other pieces of the documentary, that's the more negative pieces of, since you're so driven in certain
Yeah.
areas of your life that are not as balanced,
Yeah.
because you're so focused on the thing that you're doing that you'll just kind of plow people over to kind of get to where you want to get to.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people, even you saw that with Kobe, before he passed, he seemed like he was a lot more peaceful, because he didn't it felt like he didn't have anything else to prove.
Yeah.
Once he kind of switched that off, he really looked like he was enjoying life. And so I think even though it's good to be driven, at a certain point, you got to get to a point where you start to level it back out because
Yeah.
so much energy that you spend trying to do that. And if you always fighting and manufacturing other struggles for yourself,
Mm.
you just get worn out after a
Yeah.
while. And
Yeah.
so I think that's the point. And I think that's one of the things comparing Michael Jordan to like Kobe, you could start to see Kobe vulnerability later in his life.
Yeah.
Michael didn't want you to see
Yeah.
him, and
Uh,
he
Yeah.
made sure that he kind of positioned himself not to be vulnerable, not
Yeah.
people not to see him vulnerable.
And I think this what the last dance is showing. It's showing the humanity in Jordan. It's showing that he's not perfect. It's showing some of his, hectic ways too. But but again, that's what's making him vulnerable. And I think after watching this, then he may grow a lot, and he may even go back and apologize to a lot of people that maybe he did wrong by to get to where he was. Because again, you find ways just that's what motivated him. But he tried to use the same strategies that motivated him to motivate his teammates, and everybody don't respond that way. And I think that's why Phil Jackson was such a great coach. He found out what motivated each player, and those are the strategies he used to motivate them. And I think people have to learn that is their choice when they stop fighting, battles. It's no different than a soldier, that constantly go, off the war, constantly wants to fight a battle. The question I have to ask them is why do you always have to fight? What's the purpose of the fight? Um, and what are you afraid of? Because people always think a person that always fights not afraid, but I beg to differ. It's easier for a afraid person to fight than somebody that's that's tested all the time, because fear will lead you to react, you know, based on your instincts. Because we all got the fight, flight, or freeze, which is instinctual. In any type of danger, we respond in one of those three ways, and neither one is wrong. It's just how we respond in danger.
Okay. One question that I had wrote down is, what do you do when there's nothing left to fight?
I think you got to live um, and teach and talk to other people about the importance of just being, human. Because when we fought all the battles and realized that we exerted all the energy for what reasons? Was it for glory? Was it for fame? Was it for money? What was it for? Because at the end of the day, it's about your legacy. No matter how much you accomplish in life, if your legacy doesn't, if you don't leave the legacy that you want to leave, then you're gonna have regrets. And so, with tug of war or fighting, battles, we at the end of the day we just got to learn what's the purpose behind it, and we got to choose: do we want to be the fighter or do we want to live?
Yeah, because I think for a lot of people, that fight mentality has a lot to do with pain.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like I say, a lot of boxers or fighters in general, they have a lot of stuff that they've been through.
Yeah,
They kind of they kind of influences their fight.
yeah,
But you see, as things kind of balance out, sometimes that fight that they had, that drive that they had, it kind of diminishes over time when they don't feel like their back is up against the wall. And so I think that's why people that are so accustomed to fight,
mm,
not fight in the literal sense, sometimes like fight from environments that you had to grow up in that weren't the best for you, and you just trying to fight your way out of situations. When you don't have that fight, it's like well, how do I exist and not feel like I have to
Yeah,
be
because
head
yeah, because
all
that's the norm for you. That's their
right,
personality, the type, the or archetype, the fighter. You know.
right. And so how could I guess how can you start to retrain yourself to even with situations that you still may have to fight, how could you fight in a more peaceful way or a more effective way? Because I think for a lot of time people go into fights just to work out issues that might not even have to deal with the person, place, the thing they trying to fight.
Yeah,
It's just a way for them just to get some off of them.
yeah,
But if you can go through life and do it in a way that your fight doesn't have to drain you, or your fight, you're not putting yourself in a situation that you know how some fighters do. They fight all out and then they
yeah,
get uppercut and get knocked out.
yeah,
That's how a lot of people do. They're like, I'm just gonna fight. I'm just gonna go in just how I'm coming in, and then they get knocked out, and they're like, oh man,
yeah,
I shouldn't have did
yeah.
that. So
No strategy.
yeah, I think that's how people kind of are going through life. They just fighting all these fights every day, and eventually they're gonna get to a point where either not literally, but but they're gonna get knocked out by something
Yeah,
because they so focused on the next battle
yeah,
struggle instead of trying to build those skills within themselves that they can deal with them more effectively instead of having to rush in.
yeah. That's why I always talk to people about choosing your battles. Now, some things in life you definitely have to fight for, but you have to, choose your battles. So if your method of dealing with everything is to fight, then you're not thinking. You don't have any strategy. You know, you're gonna burn out at some point.
Mhm.
I always talk about playing chess instead of checkers. You have to have some strategy behind, what you're fighting for, because it don't take a lot of, intellectual ability to fight. Anybody can get out there and fight. You know, you got to know what you're fighting for. You got to know what your, the outcome you want, for fighting. And then you got to know that it's if you're just fighting for you, then you're fighting the wrong fight. If you're fighting for a bigger cause, then it may be worth it. But if you're just fighting for you, a lot of time, then a lot of times you can be fighting the wrong fight because we don't have anything to prove to anybody else. As long as you know who you are and you can look yourself in the mirror and you're okay with that reflection, I think that's a monumental task that a lot of people don't get through. And you talked about a lot of famous boxers, Roy Jones Jr. The reason that he was such a great fighter because he experienced a lot of hardship with his father, with him physically abusing him, and he got to the point where he said, you know, no one's ever gonna hurt him like that, and so that's how he became so great and how he became so fast. He learned, to hurt people before they hurt him. And then if you can go back to Sugar Ray Leonard, he dealt with, abuse too, and he became a fighter, but he wasn't, he was a different fighter than Roy Jones Jr. So when we're fighting from pain, sometimes the outcome is different than we're if we're fighting a defensive battle. We're not fighting to hurt people. We're fighting for something else. So the intent behind why you fight is important too. If your intent isn't a good intent, then you gotta really dig deep and check yourself to see what it means.
Okay. So I like the intent part. Where you have something that's worth fighting for outside of yourself.
Mhm.
I guess that could also go into the reason why sometimes, like you're saying, to give up the rope, to let go of the rope, that's how you win. Because if you really look at it, that struggle is not
Mhm.
really produce what you think it's gonna produce. But
Yeah,
when you step back and assess things, like you're saying, analyze things, then you can get the lesson from it. Because if my whole goal is to get to that rope and pull and make the other side fall or whatever that is fall, I won in my eyes, but then what was the lesson behind it? I didn't
Yeah,
even get the lesson if all I was trying to do was just pull and then make the other, the other situation, other thing fall, and I didn't take a look at why 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 did that require me getting in? Because
yeah,
sometimes what we can do too is we'll hop in a tug of war with somebody else that doesn't have anything to do with us. They're like,
mhm,
oh, we're going to get this person. Let's go on and let's go ahead and go ahead and pull somebody else down. But if your focus is and your intent is on bettering people, you only gonna get in those tug of wars that you know you're trying to help somebody else that can't help themselves. I guess that's kind of like
yeah,
what you were saying.
yeah. You almost being an advocate, and then if you're always fighting, and what people don't realize when you fight after the fight is over, if you're still not satisfied, if you're still not fulfilled, then that's a way to discover if you're fighting the wrong battle. Because the more you fight, the more you're gonna need to fight. And if after every time the struggle is over, you're not fulfilled, you're not fighting the wrong battle. I mean, you're not fighting the right battle. So we have to fight the right battles because at the end of the day, we're trying to get full or fulfill what we gain or acquire the things that we want or we desire, and then we can let go. You know, some people don't know when to let go, and they fighting way past their prime. On the physical side, but emotional, mentally, and spiritually too. We don't know when to let go, and that's why I say people have to be in a constant state of forgiveness. Because people that don't know how to forgive are people that typically struggle with tug of war.
Okay, so I guess this is a chance to let people that's watching live, if you have any questions or comments about uh, time that you may have been in a tug of war. What did it feel like? What were you kind of battling against? And if you did win, did it feel like what you thought it would feel like?
No, that's a good point
Mhm.
because it's like you can go through life struggle, and then once you get to that point, or that once you get to the end result that you were looking for during the struggle, and then it's like, oh, I did all this fighting for this.
Mhm.
this is what it. This is what this feel like. I thought
Mhm.
it'd be something a whole lot more than this.
Yeah.
So I guess that can go back to I guess picking your battles or which ones that you feel like would be worth fighting for.
Mhm.
Um, because like I said, if you fighting and struggling and then you come out on the end and sometimes you feel worse than what you did before you started.
Mhm.
So it's like what's the point of fighting and struggling every day, and then once what you perceive that you're fighting for doesn't satisfy you, as much as you think it should.
Yeah. I guess that they go back to kind of like the visual that we've used before, kind of being at a crossroad and you take the wrong path. And so
Yeah,
you fight for the wrong thing. And then once you expend all that energy, you realize like this is not the fight I was supposed to fight, or this is not the path I was supposed to go down. And then it could be just it was a fight that you were getting into in
yeah,
order to be seen differently in other people's eyes. So like if I do this, if I fight this fight, then people gonna like me, or people gonna give me praise, or people gonna do stuff for me. And then when you go down that road and then you realize like, well, they didn't do that. That didn't give me that. Versus when you go down the road, if you are fighting for something above yourself, greater than yourself, then you get that reward, even though it might not be money, it might not be the success that other people might think. For you, you like, I'm glad I did that. That was worth me going down that road. And so I think I think that's the way to kind of weigh it out or kind of frame it is the things that are worth fighting for, you'll get rewarded. The things that aren't, you'll get I don't say you'll get defeated, but you'll feel defeated. I guess that's the way to put it.
Okay. Yeah, I just posted in the group. It takes no strategy to fight. However, it's important to identify the purpose um, for longevity, but also for understanding and for growth. You got to know the purpose behind anything, because if you don't know the purpose, you're just out there, running around. And it's important to teach people about emotional regulation, emotional intelligence, and the importance of being meek, having power over your emotions. A lot of times we can get involved in fights, or we can be baited into struggle because we don't have power over our emotions. As soon as someone says something and it triggers an emotional response in us, then we go back to what we're accustomed to. We default back to tug of war, and we have to recognize the pattern in order to break that cycle.
Okay. I like that point with power over your emotion. So I guess the visual that I kind of got is, yeah, like when you have a thermostat in your house, it
Mhm.
controls how hot or how cold it gets.
Yeah,
Well, for a lot of people, their internal thermostat, as far as like how far they go with their anger and how far they don't, it doesn't work. So some people go 0 to 60 fast, and so they
yeah,
get real quick because they haven't learned how to do that. So for them, it's that whole mechanism is broken because they never had to really train themselves. It's like if I'm mad, I'm mad. I'm ready to go ahead and fight somebody.
yeah,
But to actually be able to manage your emotions, that takes a strong person because you have to be able to regulate yourself when pretty much everything in you wants to say something and
yeah,
wants to put hands on people and wants to do stuff, and you have to pull back from that and really have to assess, like you were saying before, is this a battle for me to fight, or is this a struggle that I need to get in right now because it
yeah,
might not be the best thing uh, for me.
yeah. And then I go back to aggression. If aggression is always our first method of choice to deal with anything, then we got to really take a long, hard look, because there's more ways to deal with anything or issues than just aggression. But if aggression is our dominant, emotion that we, go to when we try to deal with things, then aggression can, sometimes take you down a wrong, path.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
one of our viewers put down fighting is necessary. It is. It just can't be our only way, to deal with things.
yeah, yeah, and that is true. So I'm gonna start showing some of these comments that coming in.
Yeah,
so, so uh, and I like that. I agree with the comment as far as us sometimes being in battles that we didn't choose to be in,
yeah,
and I think all of us experienced that before. It's like before you know it, you in something that you didn't know you was in, or the other
yeah,
person kind of already started some stuff, and they're like, "Oh yeah, somebody might, give you a call, or something like." It's like,
yeah,
what did what you do? Like, what happened? Or what I need to do? And
yeah,
so I think for that, that makes us feel sometimes we're not prepared for those because they kind of just come at us, or we just kind of get included by association too.
yeah. I was just about to say battles
Yeah.
by association.
Yeah, so sometimes we get caught up in battles because like when our homeboys or our family members or whatever, and
Yeah,
then so he's like and like, hey, and we get one of them kind of like, oh, here we go. Like, what happened,
Yeah,
So I
see
think
what see
yeah,
what
see
had
what
happened
had
was
yeah. Hey,
what
the visual that comes up to me right now is everybody's probably seen the movie Drumline
yeah.
When Nick Cannon started to fight with the other band. And his fellow band members, they were fighting,
Hmm.
and they joined in because they were fighting for their band, but they was pissed at him for starting the fight.
Hmm.
And so
mm,
that's one time that they joined in and fought, but they didn't really have a purpose of fighting. They just were supporting somebody that made the wrong move.
Yeah. Now, after the fight is over, now it's gonna have to be a conversation of, look, don't do that again. Like, now we helped you out that time. Now, don't do that again. Uh, let's see. Hold on, I got another comment. Okay, so I would say yes, but depending on what you're fighting for, because you might be fighting something that one doesn't align with me. And so sometimes just because you're in a fight doesn't mean that it's my fight too. Because the fight that you might be fighting might be a fight that you solely want to do on your own, and it's only for your own gain. And for me to get involved with it, it might what's the word I'm looking for? It had more ramifications for me than it would for you. But if it's something that I know that hey, you got a grounds to fight for,
Hmm.
then I don't mind joining a fight, knowing that what you fighting for is worth me joining with you to fight.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
that's why, yeah, because you definitely want the people that's around you to ride with you, as long as it's not as long as it's not foolishness. Now,
yeah,
don't try and put people in your foolishness now and say like, "Come on, fight with me." Don't do that because that's not a fight. That's your own personal stuff. But if it's some of value, or if it's something like, hey, not necessarily trying to right or wrong, but it's like an injustice or something like that.
yeah.
Or if
And,
it's a,
and for me, it comes back to strategy again. Yeah, you definitely want to fight for what's right and for justice, but again, it comes down to strategy because a lot of people don't know what they're fighting for, and if they don't know what they're fighting for, then they just going into situations and they have no idea. But as long as it's a strategy and it's a purpose for it, then I definitely think that's important. And so if people know what they're fighting for, then and they got a strategy on how to win, and they understand that every battle won't be won, but it's the overall goal behind what you're trying to accomplish. Then, like I said, I definitely think that's important.
yeah. So I like so we it was a couple comments that I put up there.
Mm.
Battle that we require from long lost relative or like inherited battles. And then I like the comment, you might need a voice of reason versus a sidekick.
Mm.
That's good. That's good because I think that's a lot of us. We don't want a voice of reason. We
Mm.
want a sidekick just to ride with us. Because the
Yeah,
voice of reason gonna tell us when we're wrong,
yeah,
and they'll tell us stuff that we might not want to hear. And
yeah,
those are a lot more valuable than somebody just ready to ride every time you call. Because just because they read it, that doesn't mean that they'll ride for you always. They just ride um, just because it might be something that they just want to be attached to.
all right, we got another question, T.
That
What,
one,
all right, what if the strategy is as simple as letting people know that we will fight? I think that's a good part of it.
mhm,
I think showing up lets people know that you're ready to fight.
mhm,
Um, and then I go back to the voice of reason one. The voice of reason can stop you from falling in a trap, and I think that's important. But like I said, there's nothing wrong with fighting and standing up. You know, just have strategy behind it and know what the end state is going to be.
yeah. So I guess the way I would frame it is kind of how we've had to do in the business. Um, I think we got as far as we are now because we were willing. Well, we kind of showed each other that we would not necessarily like fight for each other, but we wanted the best for each other. And so I think that goes with knowing that people will fight because they know what's best for you too. And so, uh, see, they do. see, 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 not the hand is coming out. Look,
It
I
is,
just,
it
I
is
just
time for
was
the
saying
hands to
something
be
I was
flat.
saying. I was trying to put something together, then
Yeah,
it came up, but I
but
just,
it is time for the hands to fly. And so, like I said, that's what we were laughing at the comment.
yeah,
I was showing up. It's time to throw
yeah,
hands.
this is right.
Yeah, it is time for the hands to fly. But what we're saying is that that ain't the only thing. So yeah, it is time for the hands to fly. But if the hands fly 100% of the time, then that's when people not letting go or thinking about strategy.
Yeah, yeah.
You
I'm
got
ready
that good
for
laugh for the day.
I'm ready for that. Oh boy. Uh,
Oh man.
well, look, I'm trying to figure out where to go from here. Oh boy.
Well, I just say this, especially like if you got something something to lose, then yeah, I'm gonna think twice before before the hands come out.
Mhm.
You could, for example, say like if you have a single buddy that he ain't got nothing to lose, but you married with kids, and he call you like, "Hey man, we got to go handle this situation." Nah, nah, nah. I'm not saying leave him out there on his own, but you got to think twice. Like, I got some stuff. I got some stuff to lose, man.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's one strategy that you just gotta you step back and think like, is this worth losing what I have?
Yeah.
And then the other thing I would say, are you when we're reacting, are we reacting based on emotions, or are we reacting, or are we thinking about the process? And then, like I said, the process is important. And like I said, if it's a well thought out process, or if it's worth it, then I say yeah, go for it. We all had them times in college and growing up where, hey, if something happened, then we all in, and and so we just got to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. But one I know it's happening. Well, one comment I wanted to get back to because I think this is a tug of war that a lot of people experience. It was one with relatives or being
Mm,
pulled in the situation because of relatives and stuff. And I think that's definitely one that's harder for people to kind of let go of the rope
yeah,
uh, because either you might be viewed as like the mediator in your family,
or the
and
peacemaker.
so
Yeah,
yeah, and so as the family kind of going back and forth, they call on you, and then you feel like you gotta pick sides. And so I can definitely understand how that could be a difficult battle for people, because, like I said, family battles are some of the hardest, some of the roughest battles that you can get involved in.
yeah,
So if you are in them and you feel like you are kind of in the middle of the tug of war,
mm,
sometimes you have to kind of reassess or reevaluate your place with the family, because if you in the mediator role, you're gonna be called to be the mediator a whole lot, and so you're gonna have to switch what role you're gonna play,
yeah,
because if you're a mediator, everybody gonna come to you, and even if it's not your fault, it's gonna be your fault because both sides coming to you. And so I know that could be difficult, but I wanted to kind of revisit that because I know that was one that came up.
yeah,
So yeah, so that can be a struggle also, always being caught in the middle. between other struggles.
Yeah,
Right.
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 yeah. And sometimes you just gotta let people fight their struggles out until at some point, hopefully, they get tired of it, or they just ain't got the energy, or they just learn. And like I said, it's definitely a time for all things. And so just I guess wisdom teaches us what works best for us, because at some point we have to change our methods, you know. And so, what leads to change? Is it going to be age? Is it going to be growth? Is it going to be family? Whatever. Because again, being a peacemaker is a hard position to hold in families and all that. Sometimes we just have to let people decide for themselves, and then they learn. Okay, I'm 75. I can't do it this way. I'm 90. I can't do it this way. I gotta try a different route.
Yeah.
So I guess that's time.
Yeah.
Time time changes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess nobody else have any questions or comments. They kind of gets us towards the end of this
Yeah,
this
it's
session today.
definitely been a good conversation about tug of war. So
Yeah, yeah. So if you haven't joined our Take the Journey group, definitely do that because we do our Thursday lives directly in that group. And we have, even though this was a great discussion today, like we have a lot more in-depth conversations on in our Take the Journey group when we go live on Thursday. So if you haven't been a part of those, you've been missing out. Like we had a great one last, pretty much we've been having good ones every Thursday, but we had a real great one last Thursday about what what's blind, what was the topic last week?
what am I blinded by?
Yeah, what am I blinded by? Yeah, that was the one that we talked about last Thursday. So so yeah, if you haven't, definitely do that, and then do uh follow us on our progress page. And if you know somebody that you think the message might be good for, definitely share it with them. Um, definitely keep inviting people to these discussions because that's how it grows. I know we kind of
Mhm.
hit some highs today as far as how many people are on, so we appreciate that.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, anybody else have anything else we wanted to discuss before we got off?
Only thing I posted, I reiterate what you said. Part two of Tug of War coming on Thursday in the Take the Journey group, and so we'll talk more about the personal side of Tug of War and go more in depth in that discussion. But definitely great feedback, great questions today, great input from our viewers, and we definitely thank you because, like I said, the reason we brought up this conversation is we talked about the internal struggles that we experienced with tug of war, and I even shared my own story about constantly battling and fighting with people, and what it cost me and what I learned, and at some point I realized I had to let go of the rope, and all of us will let go of the rope at some point. So it's definitely important to look at that.
Yeah, and like Kenny had put on there. So Thursday we'll do part two of Tug of War, but we'll do the Tug of War uh, from a personal perspective, and so that's what we'll do for Thursday. And we had something different.
I'm gonna let the rope go, man. I'm not gonna
Oh
struggle.
man.
I'm not gonna
Yeah,
struggle.
they coming after you, Jeffrey, for
Oh man, Brian has definitely kept us laughing today, boy. Hey,
yeah.
Brian, we appreciate you making us think and making us laugh today. Oh man, you made my day today.
Oh boy. Well, if nothing else, I think that's it for today.
All
So
right,
I think we appreciate it. Thank for you spending your time with us today. Like I said, you could have been doing anything else during your time, so you spent it with us. So we appreciate it, and we will see you on Thursday. And have a great rest of your day.
all right.
Yeah, have a good one.